Well, Dan and Christine, the ATF says that the trend of building ghost guns actually started right here in California because of the state's notoriously strict gun laws, especially when it comes to AR-15s. Now, a lot of legal, responsible gun owners build them for their own personal use, which is perfectly legal. But the feds say people who aren't allowed to own guns are now building their own untraceable firearms, sometimes with deadly results. They look and sound like normal guns, but these homemade firearms hold a secret. They're unregistered in the state of California, and the government can't trace them.
With no serial number and no other markings, that's impossible to do.
Fox 11 is about to take you into the world of ghost guns.
We are seeing ghost guns every other day.
They're firearms the feds never know about because you build them yourself.
Drill, 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 drill to the appropriate depths.
It's all perfectly legal as long as you're allowed to own a gun. But when they fall into the wrong hands with people who know they're not supposed to legally have guns, the consequences can be deadly.
He shot me 4 times, even through the chest, and half my ear was gone.
June 2013, Santa Monica. John Zawari murders his dad and brother before setting their house on fire. He then goes on a shooting rampage at Santa Monica College, killing 3 people before police gunned him down. Zawari was banned from buying a gun in California because of mental health issues, so he built his own AR-15, which he used in the deadly attacks.
After I was shot, it was about a week later. It was the first time I heard the word ghost gun.
Deborah Lynn Fine was shot by Zawari 4 times during that massacre.
He just stared at me, raised his gun, and started shooting through my windshield. He got 40 bullets into my car within about 60 seconds, and I was the only survivor.
John Zawari had applied, or at least had attempted to lawfully acquire a firearm, and he got rejected.
ATF Senior Special Agent David Hamilton was the one who examined Zawari's homemade gun after the massacre.
Certainly looks like it was a ghost gun. There were no markings on it. There was certainly no serial number.
What the ATF did find was a receipt showing that Zawari had bought what's known as an unfinished receiver, which is the building block of all ghost guns.
This is an unfinished receiver for an AR-15 type firearm. It is commonly called an 80% receiver.
By itself, the unfinished receiver is nothing more than a paperweight, so it's not considered a firearm and not subject to federal regulations. No serial number, no background checks.
The fire control cavity hasn't been milled out. There haven't been holes drilled in the side for the hammer pin, the trigger pin, or the selector lever.
These unfinished receivers can be bought online or at gun shows.
The bigger holes are this one, the smaller holes are that one.
And if you've got access to YouTube and a little extra cash, you can buy all the parts and devices and then get the online training you need to turn that chunk of metal into an untraceable firearm.
This would be an AR pistol.
Army veteran Jeremy is a legal gun owner who decided to build his own ghost guns after he says he heard talk that they should be banned.
That was when I decided I had to jump on the bandwagon and build one of these myself and see exactly what was involved. I bought a parts kit from a gun show. I bought the upper and obviously the optics from a gun show and assembled it at home.
Fox 11 went undercover to a gun show in Costa Mesa where unfinished lower receivers were being sold legally.
The jig is 120 and the bits are 60.
No federal firearms license is required to sell the blanks, and there's no background check because they're not considered firearms.
You come over with your XY vise and you come down and you drop the drill bit right onto the top of here.
Everything else you need to build a ghost gun can be bought at a gun show like this. It's all perfectly legal, but the ATF worries that criminals with sinister intentions can take advantage of just how easy it is. These are photos from the ATF showing numerous ghost guns they've recovered, all purchased from one single warehouse in La Habra, California. Ginger Colburn of ATF Los Angeles says that warehouse owner was indicted after he made and sold the ghost guns to 27 people who weren't allowed to own firearms.
About 20 of them were felons. These individuals are not allowed to have firearms. They're not supposed to have firearms. And they're the ones walking into these warehouses getting these firearms made for them.
To try and solve the issue, California has a pending regulation that would go into effect July 1st, 2018. It would require anybody who has already built a homemade firearm to register it with California DOJ so it can be traced, and any future homemade guns would have to be registered as well. But legal gun owners say criminals won't follow the law.
As a legal gun owner, I'm told I have to register these now, so I will register by the deadline. But even when I register, how does that help someone who's not supposed to have one not get them?
These ghost guns can kill. I still think about him sometimes. I think about John Zwahari. It's strange to know I'm alive, I made it, they didn't.
And the ATF says there is just absolutely no way of knowing how many of these ghost guns are out there on the streets, because they say local police departments often don't report the guns to them because they don't have any serial numbers. Now, they say even though ghost guns started right here in California, it's now spreading all across the entire country and even across the border to Mexico. That's where they've caught Americans actually trying to smuggle ghost guns down to the cartels, and they say the cartels are now starting to build their own firearms. So, guys, a very polarizing topic.
Boy, to hear from that survivor in Santa Monica, I remember that day so well. But the question is, okay, you can legally own these.
Correct. So,
reminder when you can't.
So anybody can do these, anybody can build these as long as they're legally allowed to own a firearm. People who have a criminal past, mental health history, felons, if you're not allowed to own a gun, you can't build these. But we all know criminals don't follow the law. Now, when people who are legally allowed to build these can get in trouble is they're not allowed to manufacture them for the purpose of giving them away, and they're not allowed to manufacture them to sell to other people. Otherwise, they need an FFL, a federal firearms license. So that's kind of the case with that.
Possibilities here are kind of scary when you think about it. And have these guns been used for mass shootings?
They have. The last confirmed case that we know was a few months ago, November 2017. That was up in Tehama County, California, up north. A guy named Kevin Neal actually built 2 of his own AR-style rifles. He wasn't allowed to own guns. A court order didn't allow him to own guns, so he built 2 of his own. They were ghost guns. Went on a shooting rampage, shot up cars, vehicles, neighborhoods, even an elementary school. Ended up killing 5 people. And it's really hard to put a stop to this because with the advancing of technology, 3D printers, there are literally machines out there where you can put those unfinished receivers, the blanks, right into a machine, and it will do all the machining for you, all the hard stuff.
That's your next story right there.
Right.
All right, Bill. Thanks much. Appreciate it.